I mean, they got nice facility, geothermal building. It's the only geothermal building. Yeah. Yeah, no, we know. Everybody's late. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Huh? Oh, yeah, we got a bow, right? Even that's late. They're waiting. Okay. First exercise. So, Maria, you can join us a little bit. You don't have to hug the wall. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, to your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, to your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, 2, 3. To your left, 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in waist. Circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center, cross, knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and stop. Okay, hands in your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center. Tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center, rotating. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Center, hands up, pull an inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, turn, stretch it out. Switch. 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 Switch, straighten the front knee. Switch. 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 Center. Okay, shake it out. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, hands in your waist, shoulder roll. Okay. Okay, good. Reverse. And center. Okay, press, release, exhale, inhale. And stop. Hands up. Pull in, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, wrists. Reverse. And center. Down. Bigger circle. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Shift from side to side. Okay, then we'll go to golden cockerel. Lift up the knee. And center. Alright, shake it out. Leg swing. And center. Okay, switch. And center. Okay, shake it out. Side to side. Okay, switch. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, silk grilling. Switch.
And Sana. Open and close. Switch. Okay, Sana. Circular movements. And Sana. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. Okay, lower. Palms down. And extend. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Part the horse's mane. Diagonal flying. Switch. Okay, cloud hands. Okay, palms down. Carry tiger to the mountain. Okay, infinity sign. Form the fists. Okay, strum the lute. Turn, draw the bow. Okay, fan through the back. Okay, raise the hand. Okay, palms down. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, go through the sequence. Ready, feet parallel. Begin. Okay, so we'll go through the long form. Then we'll go through some concepts after that. You want to open the window a little? Want to open the window? Kind of hot in here. Looks pretty fresh out there. Okay, good. Go long form. Ready? Okay, preparation. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. So because we don't have any really new people, people have been, pretty familiar with the form right at this stage. Seems like your ability to actually direct the movement is better because you have something handy. Now, if you get a spatula and a spoon and you're cooking, the movements are pretty simple to replicate because you know what you can do with that apparatus. If I give you a hammer, you know you're supposed to hit the nail on the head. There's no guessing there, so what you do is you work on the motion, you work on the direction of that strike and the accuracy of that position. When we're doing Tai Chi, we don't really know what accuracy of position is because we're not really thinking about applying it at the first stage. So the geometry of position comes into play as a structure, as a means to practice. My battery's not. No, I just changed it. Might move to the battery. Okay, the batteries did go die. They did die. So, yeah, I just changed them. I don't know. So, come on, come down with the battery. So what we have to do is understand how critical the geometry of position is. Now, why is it critical? Because every movement that we do becomes a relative position. So relative position has to do with all of things we talk about as reference. Relative position is shoulder width, shoulder height, center line, like 45 degrees. These are all positions that you hear a lot about. But when we talk about them, it doesn't always mean that the body understands it. We just house it here because we have intelligence without actually putting that intelligence into the body. So to get the intelligence in the body, it is one more step, right? What's that step? You have to program your brain to recognize what that's supposed to be. So all of you that are in computers and you program, you're putting in information, and however that the hardware is, that it takes that information and it starts to formulate. Your brain is doing the same thing, but when it formulates, it's really creating, the little switches, the synapses that allow the muscle to create the next action. It transmits information. It becomes an impulse that says your muscle should do this. So it's pretty complex stuff. It happens by itself. We don't really, we just know that that's the process, right? So when we go into a position like this,
So we're going to go through the geometry position, and then I'll show you a basic drill that I've been doing, and I teach it like this online and elsewhere because, you know, we have to see the value of these positions. So this is 90 degrees. So we talk about relative position. We're really dealing with center line and two corners. It doesn't even matter if you turn in another direction. You only have this 90-degree space. Everything is relative to that space. So if I turn this way, that's my space. If I turn this way, that's my space. If I turn 180 degrees or 360 degrees, that's my space. So we don't really have to deal with much beyond there. So when we do this, we're here. We pull the palms together and we drop the elbows. Okay. And then we open the hands like this, pull the shoulders in, you create a square position, you bring your hands down, you bring your hands up, and you push out, you bring your hands down toward the hips, and you thrust toward the center, and then go back to the corner and turn your palms out. That essentially are the basic foundation of the geometry of position. Now, if I took this mirror, and everyone actually can shift over a bit, because I just want to give you the perspective and the visuals of what a corner position looks like and how your body looks when you move. Because you have no reference point in a sense when you're doing this. But I set this up so there's a center, so you can shift this way, so you can see the mirror, right? So if I stand here like this, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, back to center, you can see the dimension from the sides, right? So you can see the frontal, but because you're looking from behind, you really can't see the hands. If I turn sideways, you can see the side position, but you can't see the frontal direction. So because I'm here, you can see that the hand moves, and the hand moves. But now you see that the body can turn, and the body turns. You don't see that typically, especially even on video, because there's only 2 dimensions. In this space, you can't even pick up on it because you don't see the body. So that's why when we learn visually as the first line of it, taking in information. So when you see this, now you see multi-dimension. So if I go like this, I square my feet, I turn on the ball of my foot and I turn 90 degrees the hand. Now you see the side profile and you see the angular position. So how critical that angle is, how critical that is, and I separate the hands. If I stay here and I go to a circle, okay, I draw back and I push and I draw back and I thrust and I open, I turn to the corners and I turn back to center. That's essentially the geometry of position. I turn this way, I go to hoop position, I go to square, slant back, push forward, slant back, and forward. Open and turn, and I'm back to center, and I'm here. That's your geometry position, tying in your legs with forward, backward, right, left, center. And what you have for grass and sparrow's tail are really combinations of those positions. So when we turn this way and we separate the hands, you're like this. But because you have one-sided movement, your torso has to turn. If you have dual movements, they're working in pairs, everything seems to be just back and forth. But movements can't be just one dimension or two. It has to be 3 dimension. It has to be multi. So you have to build volume into the movement. So when you're here and you go to horizontal, so what is that? It's vertical to this. And now you can see where the hand is. It's always here. When I do this and I press, you have a horizontal vertical. So it's one of each of these. Right? If I separate my hands and I go back, because it's going from one side to the other. It has to cross the body to the hip, and then when you go across to there, you have to bring it back to the front. So the dimension of movement actually starts to form triangularly, and then when you take those corners out, your movements will start to do this, this, and this as still angular positions until you completely take the angles out, making it right, left, and center. So then your hands actually start to draw down. You go forward, you turn. You turn. You turn. And you turn. So the movements start to become circular. So when they say Tai Chi is round and circular, it's that. What creates the roundness in your movement is your torso, your waist, your spine, right and left. So when you're here, we always have to have the body driven. The only thing you have to do with your hands that make the hands softer is direct it and relax the joints. So here's a quick sort of a trick question. When do we sink our elbows? So when do you sink our elbows? Lawrence, when do you think we sink our elbows? Can you give me an instance where we sink our elbows? Okay. So that's one place that you know that we sink the elbows. That's rolling back, right? That's coming from horizontal down to the waist. That's usually called rolling back, diverting, and so forth, right? But when we think of that, that's only one example of sink the elbow. Actually, sink the elbow happens everywhere. There isn't a place you shouldn't sink your elbow. There isn't a place that you shouldn't turn your body. But what it is that when we're first learning, we look for specific places where it happens, but we don't think of the fact that it should happen everywhere. So if you don't sink your elbow, you can't relax your shoulder. So that's a concept, that's a principle. So we have to understand that as a concept so that when we get to this position, we sink the elbow. Okay. We sink the elbow and we sink the knees. So once you start to sink the elbow and start to sink the knees as a relationship, then your whole body has upper body and lower body coordination building that relationship. So all of this is actually happening in, sort of a upper body, lower body, torso. These are sections of your body that ultimately you want to build control, and then you have to tie it together. So when we're here and we sink the elbow and lift the hoop position, you create roundness, right? If we bring the hands to square, how do we do that? How do we straighten and square the arms? We bring the hands forward. Right? So when we're here and we go like this, if you want to go to straightness, you pull the elbows in. Right? So the idea of pulling the elbows in creates straightness because it becomes a function of that. Right? So when else do we do that? When we draw the elbows in and creates an action. When we do this. Right? So a new person learning, they copy the hand movement because they see this out here. So when they lift the hand, the first thing they do is this. But if you don't control your elbow, then you can't direct the movement. If you don't control the elbow, you can't direct the movement. So that action that I'm talking about actually happens in this. And this. Folding, sinking, expanding. So you have to control your elbow to let the movement happen because the elbow is the space between these two joints. If you don't control this, then you can't control this. If you control this by reaching, doesn't mean you can direct this. So that's the idea you have to understand. So a lot of your movements have to be worked more, on this level, and that's really more intrinsic. Your movements are manipulating your skeletal structure, right? So elbow sinking is in everything, right? So this is neutral. This is neutral. Well, when we form the fist, or okay, let's go to lift the elbow, right? Raise the hand. We have to relax and sink the elbow to cross the hands. If you're going to do this, then that's how it looks. It looks kind of stiff. You have to sink the elbow and relax the shoulder, and then let your torso relax and drop. Okay. So when your torso rises, when it lifts, because you're opening up this, right? When you sink, this will close, right? That's how you breathe. If this is tight, then you're going to be having shallow breath, or your breathing is not going to be complete. So that's why in Tai Chi or any of these things that we talk about, breath and movement is tied to how we move our torso. So if you don't move your torso and you're tense, and you don't know you're tense, it's because your body doesn't know. You might be smart up here, but your body is totally, disconnected from it, because the body hasn't been taught what it should be doing. So this is part of this kind of a discipline, and that's what you work toward, is to capture those concepts and theories. So when we lift up and we sink and we round and we expand, your torso is involved completely with just that movement. When you lift, the back is straightening. When you open, your body is expanding. When you close, your body is closing and your back is rounding. And so it's rounding in 2 dimensions, because now you can continue laying down, and all you're doing is channeling the hands, and then you lift again, then you open, and then you close, and then you sink. Now, because those movements are done in pairs, it's very easy to do. The brain's kind of designed to work like that, or at least in the most primitive stage of learning, it just mirrors everything it does, and everything wants to work in a pair. So when it works in a pair like that, it's very easy to do. That's why when we do this, it's easy. When we do this, it's a little more difficult. You do this and then punch, it's a lot harder to do, because you have 2 different directions of movement. So when we're doing this, in the infinity side, we can do it in pairs. When we do this to form the fist, we can do it in pairs. Because they're in pairs, there's no turning. I brought up earlier that in one side, then you have to move, right? So if your hand are moving like this, because you turn to move and turn to move, integration body becomes functional side on the defensive motion. So this is a position, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't block, even though it could be a block. It can't intercept because it's just there. So you have to bring it to there, and then you have to turn. So you have to create the action that allows it to be functional, right? So when I'm here, and I go like this, we're all focusing on this hand going up there. But we forget the back hand that's going like this. Now the back hand is doing this, all right? So if you watch this movement, are you sinking your elbow? Or are you just pulling your hand down? So the difference is, one is forcing the movement, it's isolated. Sinking and bending is 2 different things. So sinking is relaxing and down. So the inside hand sinks. Upside hand relaxes and sinks. So you have to build sinking and rising on both sides. So that's something that we have to bring into the movement, and that's strum the lute. You learned this day 1. But when did the elbow start to sink? This is physical. This is sinking and turning as intrinsic. So now we have this. We have turning. That's 1 dimension, right? That's this plane. But then we bring a dimension of sinking. Then we have to go like this. Then we start to create a motion like this. And when does that happen? It happens when we step. That's just to stop in the center. So if we cross over, we have to do that. Right? So between this and this, we see that dimension. But what about horizontal? We have horizontal and vertical. I always talk about horizontal and vertical. So if we're in the horizontal position and I pass through center, one hand went through horizontal and the other hand went through vertical. So if I turn like this, you can see that the hands are going from horizontal to vertical. So as you turn, this hand should do this, because that's what we learned as a pattern. But once we start to move, we lose the complete pattern. We look for the final position. So what is that? That's really programming those movements in your body. And we say when the body isn't intelligent, it's because it doesn't know. What does it know to go from one position to the next? It doesn't. Not till you teach it or tell it to do that. That's part of conscious intent. So all your movements and your body's motions has to be understood. You just can't do it and then figure that the body becomes smart. You have to do it and teach it and explain to it what it's supposed to be doing. Like you pick up a hammer, you say, well, I'm going to hit the nail on the head. You have this connection to the top of the head of the hammer and the nail. So that's why when you do something, it has to be a connection. So if the hands are moving and you're turning, the hands have to be connected continuously, whether it's grasp the sparrow's tail or jade ladywork shuttle. But, you know, without going too far, because we're running out of time, vertical and horizontal is the integration of that. Sinking and rising is a direction. So bending and pulling is a physical thing. Sinking is a intrinsic thing, where it works with gravity. So you sink. So anytime you sink, you should release to capture the feeling of it dropping. That's taking the tension out of your joints. If you don't take the tension out of the joints, then you can't sink. You only can do it on a physical level. Then you'll only bend. The same with the knees. If you bend your knee, then you can't control your hip and your ankle. When you sink, the three joints will work together. See? So they call that chim, or sink. Zuo is to sit. When you sit in a chair, you can't be tense, because you have to release the joints and sit. So that's the sitting. You can stiffen in the chair, but then your back gets rigid. Then this gets rigid. So, but in sitting, you really just relax into it, and then your body will fold. So if we keep that concept in mind, then we can build that into your form as, you know, a way of evolving. So the geometry of position, if you practice that a bit, you know, in that order, then you'll have your forward, you have your back, you have your forward, you have your back, you have your thrust, you have your turn. Now when we're turning and we do this, we have positions, and what do? What's something unique about Tai Chi that we do? Is sustaining a position. So sustaining a position is really a consciousness of that. So even though there's not a physical action happening while you're holding it in a physical sense, there's something going on in here that's telling that to stay there. So that's the kind of, it's called tonus. Your body has the ability to keep the muscles contracted or working enough to keep you upright, keep your body straight, keep you from falling apart and collapsing. That's just a level of consciousness. So when we do a movement and we turn and we move this hand, that becomes a level of consciousness. So that's just this hand that we're talking about. Your body's doing the same thing. How do we sustain? The body has to sustain a position. So you're always conscious of something going on. It's not one and then two. It doesn't work like that. You have to blend it. So anyways, okay, we'll go and bow.